Love finances, the other F word, and want to support the show? Become a patron by going to patreon.com/FTOFW. You'll get special features, a shout out on the air, and early releases. Or if you prefer, pick up some merchandise at financestheotherfword.com.
As fantastic a CFP as Mel O is, and as wonderful an attorney as I am, please do note that anything said in our show are our opinions alone and are not meant to be taken as financial or legal advice.
Welcome to Finances, the Other F Word, a Gen Xer podcast for musicians and music lovers, where we discuss money and music without all the pretentious bullshit. Here are your hosts, Zoe Terry, attorney at large, and Mel O, certified financial planner and author of Finances, the Other F Word. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey guys, welcome to Finances, the Other F Word. And today on the show, we're actually going to be expanding on the Henry Ruggs III accident, former Raiders player who is in the news right now due to his DUI crash that took the life of Tina O'Tintor. And this came off of our last episode, the Muppet Show episode, where we talked a little bit about this. And when I was explaining some things of financial ramifications, Zoe was helping fill in some of the blanks. And I thought it would be really beneficial for her to go through exactly what happens in the event of an accident and what that looks like. And then I can add some financial stuff. But first, she's wearing a t-shirt. And what does your t-shirt say, Zoe?
It says, "I'm billing you for this conversation."
Yes. So listeners out there, be expecting a bill in the mail.
Which is hilarious because I was and am a personal injury attorney, so we don't actually bill you. And secondly, anyone who knows me knows that I am so shit at billing anyone for anything that I do most things for free. But it's an ironic dig at attorneys.
So let's start off with that question first. Mm-hmm. Why is it that personal injury attorneys work off contingency when it seems that every other attorney gets paid up front?
That's just the way it has evolved. It's been that way for as long as I've been licensed. I was the equivalent of an attorney, a solicitor in England. I began my career 24 years ago, and I was a personal injury solicitor in England too. And that's how we handle cases even then over there too. It's just the way things have evolved. And there are other types of attorneys that handle cases on a contingency fee basis, but then there are certain types of attorneys who absolutely cannot handle cases on a contingency fee basis, like criminal attorneys cannot handle. You can't have the outcome of a case depend on whether you get paid or not for cases like criminal cases. But for personal injury cases, that's just the way it's been for many, 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 many years. That and I think it's I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sure I could think of it, but I'm not going to right now why that is. But I think it's more access to justice for these injury cases. They can be expensive. They can be very expensive, and there are just a proliferation of them these days, and so many attorneys that they take them on, and if you win, you have to pay them, and if you don't win, you don't. And I think part of the reason now I'm saying that too is to deter attorneys from taking bullshit cases, because they don't get paid if they don't win them. So
then let's focus on like the Ruggs case. So let's look at it from, obviously we're not going to be talking about any of the potential criminal outcomes of it, because that's not what your focus is. So let's focus firstly on the passenger of the car, which was his girlfriend, who, like I said, at the last time we talked, has a severe arm injury that she had to undergo surgery. Now, whether she's lost use of that arm or if it's aesthetic, we don't know at this point. Plus, I'm sure there's probably a little bit of other damage when you fucking hit a car at 130 miles an hour. So what does that look like? So let's say I was his girlfriend. I've been involved in this car accident. I'm fucked up. I'm in the hospital. I've had to have surgery. Walk me through the whole thing of how that, what do I do?
Well, the most important thing, first of all, is that is your health. Forget about any kind of claim, is that you get the medical treatment that you need and that you use your health insurance. So if you have health insurance, or you have Medicare, or you have Medicaid, don't listen to any sleazy attorney out there. Use your health insurance. Okay. So first of all, you get the medical treatment you need, right? And we're talking about a passenger here. So you're a no fault, innocent passenger, right? For all intents and purposes. And we'll talk a bit more about her potential issues, but presuming you're just a passenger who's been involved in an injury, and let's take the Henry Ruggs case, where, as far as we know, the accident was totally the driver's fault. Okay, because there can be examples when it could be partly the driver's fault and partly the other car's fault. But in this case, we're just talking about, so it's your driver's fault. So you have numerous potential claims. You first of all, but your main claim would be potentially against your boyfriend's. Her claim is against her boyfriend's insurance, okay? Because she was a passenger in his car, and she was involved in an accident where she was seriously injured, and it was his fault. So she would be making a claim against his insurance for. And I'll talk about the kinds of things she can make a claim for later on. And one of the things I wanted to make clear is, you'd mentioned in the last episode about, wow, she'd be suing her boyfriend. Well, initially, we're not talking about suing anyone. Suing means starting a lawsuit. Okay, we're not talking about suing anyone. We're talking about making a claim to his insurance company. Now, potentially, and more than likely, it will end up in a lawsuit because of the amount of time these claims take. But initially, you're just making a claim. You're notifying. She would need to notify his insurance company, and sometimes her insurance company. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. But notifying his insurance company as soon as possible that, hey, I was a passenger in this accident that was his fault, and I'm injured, because you need to put them on notice. Okay. And that's because you have insurance for a reason. He had insurance for a reason. And that is for this eventuality, to cover her losses. And now I'm talking about Nevada only, right? Every single state in this country is different. Every single country is different about how they handle these claims. In Nevada, every single driver has to have minimum liability coverage for insurance. And now the minimum limits are 25,000, 50,000, 20,000. And what that means is you have to have a minimum of 25,000 per person for bodily injury, 50,000 per accident, and 20,000 per property coverage. So that means if you're in an accident, the minimum that your coverage that you have, the minimum that your insurance will pay out is 25,000 for if someone is injured, for one person, 25,000. So the minimum his insurance could be, and I'm sure, I don't know, but I'm sure his insurance is much better than the minimum coverage that he has to have under this state's law. The minimum he would have to have, the minimum that his girlfriend would be able to receive would be 25,000, and then 50,000 per accident, meaning the minimum that his insurance company would pay out is 50,000 per accident, meaning Tina's injured and his passenger is injured. So that's 50,000 per accident. The minimum they can pay out is 50,000. So that's like, however that gets split between the two. And then 20,000 for property damage. Okay. So everyone in Nevada should be driving with at least that much coverage.
So I wanted to verify, because I want to make sure I'm following you. So that for him, for the girlfriend, Washington is her last name. For Washington, the maximum she's going to get is 25 grand. If it's
that's the minimum she would get.
Got it.
because that's the minimum coverage he should have. I know, no doubt he has better insurance than that, right? I would hope that most of us have better insurance than that, but he could not be driving or should not be driving on the roads of Nevada without at least that much coverage.
So she knows, the girlfriend knows she's at least getting 25 grand.
Well, no, if she then has to prove that she has losses of at least 25,000.
Okay.
But if she's been into, I can tell you now, if she's been in a hospital here,
Right.
if she's been in an emergency room, if she's had surgery, she's got losses of at least 25,000. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, I was just trying to follow it. So, I mean, if Tina's hurt and deceased now, and Washington is hurt, then the minimum they would both get would be 25,000 if they can prove that their losses met or exceeded the $25,000 minimum.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was following it as you were talking.
Okay, so the minimum that the two of them would get combined is 50,000. Okay, now if it turned out that's all the coverage he had was the minimum, so that's 50,000 per accident. If it turns out Tina died, which she did, and the girlfriend only had whiplash, well, Tina's not going to, the passenger's not going to get 25. It's not going to get split equally. Do you know what I mean? It's going to get prorated out if that's the only coverage he's got.
Right, per damage to the person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But there's different types of insurance. All we're talking about there is the minimum liability coverage that everyone has. Now, the passenger, she'll be making a claim against his liability coverage, but also she needs to find out, does his insurance and her own insurance, because maybe she drives a car and she has her own separate insurance, does her own insurance and his insurance have med pay coverage, medical payment coverage? Now that is a different type of coverage that pays out for medical bills regardless of fault. So even he can make a payment, could make a claim on his own insurance for medical payment coverage, even though the accident was his fault. If he got injured and had to go to the hospital and he has $10,000 in medical bills, if he has $50,000 in med pay coverage, say, he could make a claim on his own med pay coverage.
Would they refuse to, or could they refuse to pay it because he was doing something criminal?
Not that I'm aware of. It's a no fault. It's no fault. You pay, you know, these are, and this is, liability is the only one you have to have. You pay an additional amount for med pay, and you pay an additional amount for the other coverages I'm about to talk about. But so this is why it's so important to find out what coverage everyone has. Okay.
Absolutely. And I just want to jump in here. The reason why I asked that question is because we've touched on umbrella policies in this show. But typically with umbrella policies, if you are doing something criminal and that was what caused the accident, they will not pay. Now, that's not for all of them, but that is something that is written into a lot of the insurance contracts. That's the reason why I asked that question of Zoe, because they'll be like, well, nope, you were breaking the law, so fuck you, ain't paying shit. So that's why I wanted you to clarify. So thank you for that.
Yeah. So med pay, as I say, is no fault. So Henry could make that claim on his med pay, and his girlfriend, because that's who we're talking about right now, she could also make that claim on his med pay. And then if she has her own insurance, she could check with her own insurance and say, look, I've been injured in a car accident in my boyfriend's car as a passenger. Do I have med pay coverage under my own car insurance? Now, another kind of additional coverage which you can pay for, which is additional liability, is the only one you have to have, is UIM coverage, which means uninsured or underinsured coverage. Now that coverage is if the other driver is to blame and they either don't have insurance or they don't have enough insurance, then your own insurer will kick in over either because the other person didn't have insurance or they didn't have enough insurance. So that again would be a question for her insurer, her own insurer, if Henry didn't have enough insurance or wasn't insured. See, we don't know. We don't know if we're
right.
all presuming that as a, footballer, he had, way more than the minimum insurance needed. But and then there's also umbrella policies, which may or may not kick in, which you've touched upon, but they're the three main kind of coverages that her as a passenger would be looking into, which is why she would need to notify his insurance company and her own insurance company if of the accident. And that's why, and I'm going to run through in a minute when you've asked all your questions, what you do after an accident. Okay, the list of things that you do as a driver or as a passenger after an accident. But that's why you don't have to have an attorney if you've been in an accident and you're hurt. You don't. You can make a claim to his, and she can make a claim to his insurance, her insurance, all by herself. It's not recommended. And I'm not just saying that because this is what I've done for 24 years, but it's so complicated, especially if you're injured in a bad way. There's lots of insurance coverages you may not know about, and they're sure as shit not going to tell you about if you don't know about it.
Right.
And it is a well-known fact that when you come to like pain and suffering, which is a type of compensation, I'll talk about all the different kinds of compensation that you can get, be clear that an insurance company, if you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it. But if you do have the sense to say, hey, I was injured, I want something for my injuries, an insurance company is going to give you maybe a third of what you would get if you had an attorney on your side. And even though you're then going to have to pay your attorney for helping you, you'll still end up getting more with an attorney than you would without. But you don't need an attorney. But then when it comes to, let me clarify that. If you don't have health insurance and you need treatment, say, I've just got whiplash, but I don't have health insurance and I need to go to a chiropractor, and I've been or even I just need to go to a primary care doctor, and I say I've been in a car accident, there are many, many doctors who will say, I'm not treating you if you don't have health insurance, or even if you do, unless you have an attorney, and I put it on a lien. So
Wow, I did not know that.
Yep.
And why is that?
Some cynical people would say money, money, money. Some people would say, that they're worried about getting paid. But that's why I always say, and most good attorneys will tell you, if you have insurance, do not get treated on an attorney lien, because ultimately, for a start, and let me explain what a lien is. It's when you go to a chiropractor, you've been in a car accident, and the chiropractor says, yes, I will treat you, and you won't have to pay me out of pocket. You don't even have to pay me a copay. We're going to sign an agreement, and your attorney is going to agree that once you win the case, you're going to pay me out of your settlement, right? And it's a lien. But that lien will say, if you don't win, or you decide to drop your case or whatever else, you are responsible for paying that doctor's fees, right? Now, that doesn't happen with health insurance. Now, some health insurers do have subrogation rights, and they will, if you've been in a car accident, want some of their money back from the wrongful party too, but only if you're successful. They're never going to come after you and say, well, here's some of the money, this is what we want back because we paid for some of your care because of someone else's fault. We want this much back. But if you didn't win, they're never going to still want it. But a doctor who treated you on a lien quite possibly, probably will, right? So never, plus the cost of the treatment of a chiropractor or any kind of doctor on a lien is usually much more expensive than if you treat through health insurance, Medicare or Medicaid. Okay, so you just always use your health insurance rather than treat on a lien. So does that make sense too?
Okay, so basically, I guess, so with the girlfriend, obviously, from what I'm to understand, is she wants to see all the insurances that her boyfriend possibly could have so that she could have access to as much funds as she can get her hands on. And basically, she needs to, and she can do the claim herself, but obviously, having an attorney is going to be better because it's easier to navigate it, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, we touched a little bit on the Muppet episode about what that means for her. Let's say in the event that her arm, let's say it was her right arm. Most of the people are right-handed, and your right arm gets fucked up, and now you can't really write or you can't really use it, and you become partially disabled. That could be a long-term effect that could follow her through her financial life, as well as, their 3-year-old daughter, like we talked about, the fact that is going to have a very big change in her life coming, and having the education that she could have had is obviously is going to be tainted. So she can, so 9 times out of 10, she's going to sue the boyfriend because she's going to need to get somebody who's experienced to get access to as much money as she can, right?
Well, once again, you've used the word sue. So
Okay.
suing means filing a lawsuit. So what I would rather say is she's going to make a claim against his insurance.
Oh, that's where I keep getting screwed up because there's an attorney involved. I just think sue, but she can make a claim that's not a lawsuit, but it still is with an attorney who's helping her. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, listeners, if I'm the fucking idiot and you guys all got that, good on you, because I swear to God, every time I hear attorney, I think lawsuit, lawsuit, lawsuit. So that clears it up for me.
Okay, so the attorney gets involved quite often right from the start, not because they're going to sue them, but because they know how the system works. They know, like I just said, that there's all these different types of insurance in place, that they need to notify this insurance, that insurer, that if the person doesn't have health insurance, they're going to need to sign attorney liens for doctors. And because, many times a seriously injured person isn't capable or wanting to handle all of this bullshit, they want someone else to do it. So it's not because they need to file a lawsuit, although, as I'll mention in a minute, quite often it ends up in a lawsuit, but that attorney is involved getting the claim started, sending the letters of representation to Henry's insurance, sending them to her insurance, getting the copies of the police report, doing all the stuff that is needed to start a claim. Now, suing means filing a lawsuit. In Nevada, and what is important here is the statute of limitations. And what that means is, how long do you have before you have to file a lawsuit? And if you don't file a lawsuit within that time, you can't your claim is done. Your end of story. And that differs depending on the type of case you have: breach of contract, medical malpractice, personal injury in a car accident. And it differs depending on what country you're in and what state you're in. So I'm just so as we're all very clear, I'm talking about here in Las Vegas for a car accident. Okay, very important. Usually the statute of limitations is 2 years. So if you haven't resolved, and that's, again, let me make it clear, and I'm saying usually, it's 2 years for anyone who's 18 and older, right? If you're in a car accident and you're injured and you haven't completely settled your case within 2 years of the date of that accident, so you haven't got all your money, everything sorted out within 2 years, you must file a lawsuit before the 2-year anniversary of the car accident. Otherwise, done. If your attorney forgets to file a lawsuit within 2 years, you're done. You don't get shit. So that's where suing and filing a lawsuit comes in.
So why would you file a lawsuit versus just putting a claim on the insurance?
Once you file a lawsuit, pre-litigation, before you have filed a lawsuit, you're not entitled to access to certain things. As soon as you file a lawsuit, then the process of litigation starts, and one of the steps is discovery, where you have to swap documents, depositions happen, things like that. And if you wait until 2 years to the 2-year statute, then 2 years has gone by, documents might have gone missing, memories may have faded. So I guess that would be the main reason why people file lawsuits immediately, is because then the clock starts ticking immediately to when you can get access to documents, when you can start deposing people and, getting to the good stuff, which you can't get to. You can't make people, like in a slip and fall case in a store, you can't make that store give you the surveillance video pre-litigation. But once you filed a lawsuit and you start discovery, you can compel them to give you that surveillance video.
Okay, so that covers the girlfriend, and we'll wait to see what her injuries are. So now in the case of Tina, obviously deceased, again, I haven't heard that she has any children at all, so I guess that part is good. So what does that look like? I guess it would be her family would be filing the claim. Okay, so how does that look for Tina's family?
It's kind of the same in terms of they would notify. Clearly, from what we know, it was Henry's fault. He caused the accident. So again, they would be making a claim against his insurance company, but they would also notify her insurance company to see, if there's any additional coverage under her insurance. But the main claim would be against his insurance. And there's so much more to it. It's hard to cover everything in one little chat, because backing up, when you file a lawsuit against Henry, maybe Henry didn't own the car, maybe his father owned the car, and so when you filed the lawsuit, you would actually have to file the lawsuit against Henry and his father, because his father owned the car, and there are different types of claims that you can make if Henry's father gave him permission to drive his car, and also if he knew he was drunk. I mean, do you know what I mean? There's so many nuances to it, but we'll keep it simple because, but yeah, so for Tina's family, it would be her heirs, her next of kin, for better words, that would be bringing the claim, and then any lawsuit, and they would make the claim to Henry's insurance, and also be checking on her own insurance. And there were also, because this is such a complicated case, when they came to file a lawsuit, they may also be looking into, because we know he was drinking, where was he drinking? Who gave him the alcohol? Is there a potential claim there? So it's a lot more complicated in this kind of situation where drink is involved.
Yeah, and we touched on that the last episode where we talked about, so he was at Topgolf drinking, and there is video footage of him at Topgolf, and of course it was him, the girlfriend, and another friend, all drinking, of course, what you do in your early 20s, and Topgolf closes at midnight. And then the accident happened at 3:39 in the morning. And so there was a Topgolf has been mentioned in a lot of the articles right now, as far as a potential of, is Topgolf going to end up getting sued because he was drinking there? And then he went to his friend's house, kept drinking. And so Zoe's saying no. So you don't think that Topgolf would be named in this?
I don't know, but I doubt it, because of to be a defendant in a lawsuit in this type of case, you have to have a duty to that individual that died, breach that duty, and then have caused injury as a result of that breach of duty. Now, did they have, and one of the key factors, and of course we don't know all the facts, but if he left at 12 and this accident didn't happen till 3 hours later, he clearly went on somewhere else, and 3 hours of something else happened.
Right.
I don't know how you're going to blame Topgolf. First of all, do they have a duty to make sure everyone who leaves their establishment drunk doesn't drive? I'm not sure that they do. Even if you stretched it and said that they did, well, he didn't leave there at 12 and go get in this accident. He left there and went somewhere else for 3 hours. So I think that, the causation is broken there. There is no cause between, even if they did breach even if there was a duty and they breached that duty by letting him leave drunk, which I don't think either of those happens, there was no, that breach didn't cause the accident because he went somewhere else for 3.5 hours.
Right,
So
went to-
I don't see how that works, but we don't know all the facts. So who knows? And a wily plaintiff's attorney may well include every possible defendant, because more defendants, more insurance. But I wouldn't see how that would be from what I know so far.
So the family of Tina would secure an attorney to help put the claim. When does that cross the line into now they are suing Ruggs as a person, going after personal assets? Like, when does it transition over from we're going after the insurance companies to pay versus now we're going after you?
Well, firstly, it could be, it's kind of complicated, but there are kind of tactical issues. We just talked about the policy limits, right? How everyone in Nevada must have at least 25,000 liability limit minimum.
Right.
If Tina's family said to their insurance, to Henry's insurance company, we want your policy limits and we want them now. And the insurance company said, oh, we don't have enough information, or we're not going to pay them for whatever else. Then what happens is that policy becomes uncapped. They had a chance to pay the policy minimum. They decided not to. So now that policy is no longer just a 25,000 policy. It's whatever the jury decides it is. Okay. So, and that puts Henry at risk of paying whatever a jury awards over and above that 25,000. But what's more complicated is he drove drunk. So there is a potential, and I am sure that his lawyer will, when they file a complaint, will put in a claim for punitive damages, which is because he willfully, forget what the actual terms are, he did something, and the purpose of punitive damages is, by the very nature of the word, to punish and to deter other people. If you're going to drive drunk and kill someone, then we're going to punish you financially. So on top of any other damages that she may, her family may get, they may be awarded punitive damages because he drove drunk and killed people, killed her and her dog. So that's when he would end up having to pay money, any excess of his policy, and punitive damages.
So let's say that, just to make sure that I'm following this. So Tina's deceased, her family obtains an attorney so that they can file a claim. And then let's say that, I don't know, for whatever reason, the bills, the jury awards, $5 million, and the insurance caps out at $1 million. Then the $4 million, do they have to then sue Ruggs for the $4 million? Or is that that's automatically rolls to him and there's not another lawsuit that needs to be had?
No, when you file the lawsuit, it would be Tina Tinta versus Henry Ruggs. You're not suing the insurance company. You're suing that individual. It's just that the insurance company would be the one that would be paying, depending on the facts. So there's not another lawsuit. It's just who it's, once it's settled, it's just who is paying what out of the judgment.
So the claim goes through just a claim, and then the lawsuit is against Henry himself. And then the insurance looks at the facts of the case and the type of insurance he had, and they decide how much they're going to pay out. And let's say that the insurance company doesn't give any bullshit to anybody, and they just go, yep, you're right. This is what we paid. They pay everything out, and then they walk. Basically, they said, yep, we gave you all the money that we were supposed to give you. Now, anything else, has nothing to do with it. And then let's say that Tina had lived. Okay, let's take Hulk Hogan's son as an example. 22 or 3, he was in a car. I believe he had a passenger. He got in a massive wreck. He was speeding at a very high speed. I don't remember if he was drunk or not, but he basically turned his friend into a paraplegic. And this was a whole big thing. And this was a whole big financial thing. And Hulk Hogan sued Wells Fargo and was trying to do all this other kind of crazy stuff. And of course, the family went after Hulk Hogan. And to be honest with you, I think they got fucked. And now their son is paraplegic, can't do fucking anything. And I don't think that they made it out very positive on that accident, which infuriates me if I'm remembering correctly. And I hope I'm wrong on that. So they put the claim against the insurance pays, and simultaneously they have this civil lawsuit going after Henry Ruggs. So let's say, like in that example, if Tina had lived, and let's say for the rest of her life, in order to be able to provide care to her, it would have been, $30 million, all right, for the rest of her life. Then, and that, let's say the insurance covered 5 million. So then that civil case would be, hey, $25 million. But if the jury says, nope, it should be 50 million, then the jury can say that as well, right?
They can, but only in this case because he was drunk. I mean, if it was just a general accident and it was his fault, and a jury, it went to trial, because it would only go to trial because an insurance company hadn't paid the policy limits. Do you know what I mean? Usually. But yes, he could still be on the hook for the excess that his insurance company had paid, because there was a punitive element here, because they're going to go after him for punitive damages. That's my understanding anyway.
So I want to just make sure that I understand this. So let's say that, Ruggs had liability insurance only, which of course he probably didn't. And let's say that the minimum payout's $25,000, and that would have been all the damage that would have been claimed. And the insurance company, pays out the $25,000, and then the insurance company walks. So would you then sue the person to get excess? Like if it maybe cost, $2 million, but the insurance, obligated to pay 25, and they did, and now they're done. So then now you go after their personal assets. Like I'm trying to understand why you would sue somebody if, in the event, assuming that the insurance company goes, yeah, you're right, and then just pays everything out. Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, it does. That's why you need to assess right from the start what everyone's coverage is. So say, for example, Henry only had $25,000 in coverage, in liability coverage, right? And Tina's damages are going to be way in excess of that. You're not going to make a policy limits demand from her insurance company of 25,000, because as soon as when you accept money from the insurance company, they're not going to pay it out unless your client signs a release. And the release says that you cannot sue them or their insured for anything else. Okay. So you, if all he has is 25,000 and it's Henry Ruggs, you're not going to take that. You're just going to sue him, and you're going to go after his personal assets. If it's Joe Blow down the street and all he has is 25,000, and he's got the minimum policy limits because he rents a house, he doesn't have a car, he's unemployed, and you've been hit by him, you're lucky he has insurance at all, your medical bills are 50 grand, you're shit out of luck. And that's what happens all the time. You're going to have to take that 25 grand, sign the release. There is no point in suing him for the excess, because he has nothing to give you, and that's all you get. But so you're going to have to find out what his policy limits are, make a judgment call on whether that's going to be enough to cover, or if you can even make a judgment call at this point, if that's going to be enough to cover her, what your claim is, which you probably don't know yet. And at some point you're either going to, either going to make a policy limits demand or, go after him personally. See?
So, yeah, so the girlfriend, let's say she sues him because it's, whatever. And then
Sues
Tina's
him or makes a claim.
sues.
Okay.
So like if the girlfriend sues him because we're just going to be under the assumption that whatever the insurance company is going to do is not going to be enough. And then Tina's family sues him and they both put a claim on the insurance, then that insurance is going to look at them as two separate people
Mhm.
because that's the way, for the purposes of insurance, that's how the claims work. But the lawsuits are jointly filed.
If they may not be jointly filed, but as soon as the court realizes that they would end up being joined together. They're not going to usually not going to let two civil lawsuits that arise out of the same facts and are against the same defendant coexist. Usually somebody, one of the attorneys would agree to get them joined if they don't file together, because it's a question of resources, time. The court is not going to let two lawsuits that involve the same people and facts go in tandem through the system. They would get joined.
Okay, that's fantastic. I did not know. See, this is all, like, I'm literally learning with you guys as we're doing this right now. And so her lawsuit and Tina's family's lawsuit are eventually going to be joined together. And then they're going to say, okay, we're suing for whatever their joint amount is. A portion of it would go to Washington, the girlfriend, and a portion of it would go to Tina's family. And then they move on from there. So that's the purpose of a lawsuit. So really the only time you're looking at getting into a personal injury lawsuit is if the person you're going after has deeper pockets. Is that safe to say?
Well, it's if you're running out of time, right? Because you only have 2 years in this state. Other states, it's different.
Right.
And you might not think it, but these things take a long time.
Yes, they do.
And it can be quite often, it's not the lawyers or anything else's fault. If you're injured, how you can't settle your case if you're still treating and you have no idea what the future holds. I can't settle your lawsuit because once it's settled, it's settled. And if you've just had surgery in your arm and we don't know if you're going to need further surgery or how it's going to affect your earnings, how it's going to affect your ability to look after your child, I can't settle it in good conscience. Do you know what I mean? Until we know. And that could be months, years down the line. So you may have to start a lawsuit because of time. You may have to start a lawsuit, like we talked about earlier, because you want to get your hands on documents that you don't want to go missing, or you might want to depose people that before they forget what happened. There's lots of other reasons why a lawsuit might be started other than just because you are going after them personally.
And so, because that's good to know, because I always thought with attorneys that they were just dragging it out so they could get more money. And that's, both your industry and my industry, we all have people that think we do XYZ because we're dirty, rotten bastards. But in actuality, it sounds like, and plus you got to wait for court, right? I mean, court's got to fucking make dates and shit of stuff, right?
Yeah. And don't forget, we're not paid hourly. So we don't get paid. We don't get a fucking penny until this case settles. And all the time that the case is ongoing, we are paying stuff. For these kinds of cases, we are paying for, experts' reports. We're paying to get medical records. We're paying court fees. We are out, spending money for these cases and not getting paid until the very end. So it's not in our best interest for the case to go on for 2, 3, 4 years because we're not getting paid.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. At least for personal injury attorneys, not for, in my experience with dealing with my court case, that you guys can listen to any of the shows, and it was not a personal injury case, but I've talked about it and it was not great. So what are some of the things, I know that this is really important for the listeners, that a driver should do immediately after an accident and what a passenger should do immediately after an accident?
Well, they're kind of they're pretty much the same thing. First of all, it's kind of important but impossible at the same time, is to try and stay calm. Now, I've handled these kinds of cases for, like I said, 24 years, and it's impossible. I've witnessed a car accident not that long ago where a car in front of me flipped over twice and landed on its roof, just two cars in front of me. And you would think I didn't work in the industry, didn't know what to do. I forgot how to park my car. I just panicked. And so I know what it's like, and all I was a witness. So I wasn't even involved in it, but you got to try and stay calm. Most importantly, do not leave the scene. And again, remember, I'm talking about Nevada, but most of what I'm saying would apply, anywhere. It's kind of common sense, but it's a criminal offense to leave the scene if you're involved in a car accident. So don't leave the scene. Sounds quite quite attorney-ish of me, but don't say too much, right? Don't, it's fine to get out and ask the other person how they are. That's just being a fucking decent human being. But even if you think the accident is your fault, and it may not be, your interpretation of whose fault an accident is may not be the same as an attorney's opinion or a police officer's opinion. So keep your mouth shut, right? Find out who everyone is, that's fine, but don't get out and apologize or say it was your fault. And don't say you're not hurt, right? And that's not me being an attorney and trying to be devious. When you get into an accident, even ones that seem fairly minor, you don't know necessarily how you feel. Adrenaline is pumping, you're also in shock. You cannot feel anything until later that day, sometimes not even the next day. But if you've got out and go, oh my God, I'm so sorry, that's all my fault, how are you? I'm fine, no need for anything, no need for the police, and then the next day your neck is hurt as fuck and someone tells you that wasn't your fault. Do you know how fucked you are? You know what I mean? So just stay calm, make sure everyone's all right, but don't be blabbing, right? Just don't.
And I just want to jump in here real quick. Remember on the OK Karen episode, we talked about how you can take a 1 to 3 minute video clip and you can distort it because you can't see the crazy shit that happened before or after it. Mm-hmm. And so if you start talking, almost everybody that I've heard of now that gets in any accident, they pull out a phone and they try to antagonize it, whether it's because they want to make it on social media or because they're just cunts overall. They want to record it or try to get a reaction out of somebody. So, and that could potentially, I'm assuming, be used against you. So
yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to add that on. Sorry about that.
No, that's a very good point. Everyone's got a phone. Everyone's, wants to be part of everything. So yeah, just presume that people are recording you, which, it's a terrible thing, but yeah. And they will be taken out of context. So, just make sure everyone's okay, but don't be blabbing. Just, that's it. Then exchange insurance information, right? And best way to do that is take a photo of that other person's insurance card. Take photos of the damage to your vehicle, to their vehicle. Take photos of the other person's driver's license or ID. Take photos of their insurance card, like I said. Take photos of the accident scene. Take photos of the license, of that person's license plate. If you can, without getting into it, take a photo of the driver, their passenger, any witnesses. Take photos of all this stuff. Call the police. Even if, if you're talking about a tiny little scratch and there really was no impact and nothing's going to happen about it, okay, but you'll be surprised how that can turn into the other person saying, oh my God, I've broken my neck, right? And if you've done nothing about it, you haven't got that person who saw it and can say it was nothing, and you haven't taken pictures of the scene, then you're opening yourself up to liability the other way, right? So treat everything as, document everything, call the police, There was a little while here where Metro wouldn't come out unless there was injuries in an accident, but that's done with now. They should come out whether you are deathly injured or not. And again, don't say, oh, I feel fine. You probably, you know, unless it really was just a tiny little scrape, you don't know, right? You're in shock. And like I said, get details of any witnesses, because they're not going to hang around and they could be crucial, right? Once you get, so that's all about on the scene. Once you get home, you need to call your own insurance company. And we talked about that. The reason for that could be because you may have MedPay insurance coverage. The other driver may not have any insurance or not enough insurance. So you need to find out what coverage you have. You may have MedPay coverage. You may have Uim coverage. Either way, you need to let your own insurance company know, and you need to let the other driver's insurance company know, because it may well be that that driver doesn't. And you as the other driver involved can set up a claim. It doesn't have to be them. You can say, I was involved in an accident with your insured. This is what happened, and they will set up a claim. But do not get involved in, they very well could, your insurance company or the other insurance company, try and take a recorded statement from you. Don't get involved in any of that, particularly if you're going to retain an attorney. That's something that you know, it's particularly not right after the accident. Say, no, I'm not going to give a recorded statement until I've spoken to my attorney. All right, because it's just happened. And if you're going to even slightly consider an attorney, your attorney would want to, I would want to be there with you when you give it, even if you're giving a recorded statement to your own insurer. Okay.
Right.
Some states require you to report it to the DMV. Our state does. If it's, I think it's if the accident property damage is more than $750 or something like that, you must report the accident to the DMV. So, you know, there's lots that you have to do, and that you must proactively do. And you can be in trouble if you don't. Now, you may be feeling fine. You may be adrenaline rush and feeling like, oh God, you know, that was pretty bad, but thankfully I'm fine. The minute you don't feel fine, which could be the next day, you wake up with a sore neck or whatever, you need to go and get medical treatment. And it could just be as simple as going to your primary care physician, or going to an urgent care, or going to an emergency room, or going to your chiropractor. But the minute you don't feel right, you need to go and see a doctor. And that's not just because of, as an attorney, me telling you that because I want to make the most money on a claim. It's for your health. It's for your health, number one, because the shock starts to wear off, the adrenaline starts to wear off, and you could have some soft tissue injury. You might even have worse. So you need to get checked out. Like I said, if unscrupulous doctors start saying to you, well, I'm not going to treat you because it was a car accident, unless you have an attorney and it's a lien. If you have health insurance, go to a different doctor. Use your health insurance. Do not get sucked into liens unless there is a reason for it. And sometimes there are reasons for it. But, you know, go to an urgent care, go to an emergency room. They have to treat you. Okay. As soon as you get home and you feel up to it, write a statement and draw a diagram of exactly what you remember. While your memory is fresh, given what I just said to you about how these things can take months and years sometimes, write it all down and date it of what you remember happening, because that shit is invaluable. Also take photos of any cuts or bruises from that day and as they develop, because again, the claim can take months and years. You can't remember. And, you know, a year down the line, when your attorney or you is trying to settle this case, it might not seem that bad, or you might not remember. Then you take a look at those photos from a couple of days after, and you're like, oh my God, I had bruising all down my chest from the seatbelt. And sending those photos to the insurance company can make a difference. Okay. Mm-hmm. Consider keeping a pain diary, which is, you know, this is if you're injured, right? making note of how you feel each day, because again, months down the line, I don't remember what I had for breakfast the day before, let alone how I felt 6 months ago. So consider just jotting down, what your ailments were, how things developed, because that would be invaluable to your medical providers and most importantly to your attorney. Also, very important, keep a list of all your out-of-pocket expenses. I'm going to come briefly at the end to what kind of things you can claim, but out-of-pocket expenses, your co-pays for doctors, travel, petrol to and from doctors, anything that you've had to pay, keep your receipts, make sure you get them to your attorney, or if you're not using an attorney, make sure that you keep them together for when you make your final claim to the insurance company, because you have to prove it might not have been your accident, it might not have been your fault, but you have to prove what your losses are. No one's going to give you money for nothing. You know what I mean? No, they're going to make you work for every penny, even though none of this was your fault.
Right.
And like I said, sooner rather than later, consider retaining an attorney. Not for any other reason than these claims are complicated. And if you want to get the best help and the most compensation and get the best advice, that's why we went to school for the many years that we did. And it's not straightforward, and there are many pitfalls. So consider retaining an attorney. We don't charge you up front. We pay for all the costs up front, and we act for you on a contingency fee basis. So if you don't win, we don't get anything. If you do win, we take a percentage, and that contingency fee varies from attorney to attorney. But be wary if there's some attorney out there who's offering a 16% contingency fee and think, how long have they been doing this? Is this what they do for their bread and butter? Because usually it's a third. It's usually around a third. And then that percentage usually rises if you have to file a lawsuit or an appeal. So read your contingency fee agreement before you sign it, and shop around for attorneys. There are so many personal injury attorneys in this town. And like I said, just research your attorney, because there are lots of them. You have lots of choices. So, and like I said, initially you're making a claim. You may end up having to sue and file a lawsuit for many reasons we've discussed, but you're getting assistance to file a claim initially, either with your insurance company or their insurance company or multiple insurance companies, depending on the facts of the accident. And one thing I did want to mention is the whole criminal versus civil. Criminal is, we all know what criminal is. And like Henry Ruggs was arrested for DUI and various other offenses. Civil lawsuits are for remedies that involve getting money, usually. As far as the crossover between criminal and civil, the fact that usually if somebody gets cited for an accident, so that, say I rear end someone, not that I would ever do that, but if I rear-ended someone and the police came and they cited me for driving too close, I got a ticket basically for driving too close. In a civil lawsuit, the person that I hit couldn't bring that up in the civil lawsuit. There are rules of evidence which say that they can't. DUI is something different, okay, because that involves a whole different level of, neglect and whatever else, and deliberate, what do I want to say, but you know what I mean, it's a whole different level. But for just general citations for travel, driving citations, you usually can't use those in your civil lawsuit. You can use the police report to a certain extent. You can't introduce the police report into evidence, but you can have the police officer come and give evidence. So, there are ways of making it clear who did what, but it's very limited. So there's, but that's the difference between criminal and civil. Okay.
Mhm. Did you cover all your points?
Yeah, all I wanted to very quickly say is the kinds of things that you can claim for are property damage, like the car itself, your deductible, if you have it, any items in your car that are damaged, your glasses fly off, your laptop is smashed, obviously your medical bills, lost wages, you're entitled for damages for pain and suffering. And like I said, if you have an attorney, there's clear evidence that you get maybe 2 or 3 times what you would get if you try to handle it yourself. Cost of care, if you're really severely, even if you're not really severely injured, but maybe you have to have someone come in and help you. You have to have someone come in and help you clean or do yard work. If your spouse can even make a claim if for loss of consortium, if you're not able to do for a while. And in Tina's case, the loss of her dog. Unfortunately, in Nevada, dogs, pets are still considered chattel and property, not members of the family. So it's very limited in how they would be able to claim, what they would be able to claim, but they would be able to claim, like, I don't know if they even were able to have funeral expenses, but whatever vet expenses there were related to the dog, but not much, unfortunately, in this state. But so yes, and one other very quick thing: if you are injured, very, very important to seek medical advice quickly. Follow your doctor's advice, because a savvy defense attorney is always going to look for ways to discredit you. And if you don't do what your doctor says, you don't go to the doctor quick enough, you don't go to PT as much as you're supposed to, they're going to say that you didn't mitigate your damages, which is you didn't keep your damages to a minimum, and they're going to try and reduce your damages and give you as little as they can.
I was wondering about the dog, so I'm glad you touched on that. Well, we will be continuing, I'm sure, in many different ways, coming back to the Ruggs case because of all of the financial repercussions. And I'm really happy that Zoe is my co-host and she was able to explain this, because it was confusion for me, as I'm sure there was some listeners. And, if you guys want to give us any feedback, you can slide into our DMs or hit us up at 775-537-4352. We hope you guys have safe holiday driving this year. And with that, I think we're just going to be out this bitch.
Peace out.
Thanks for listening. For outtakes and photos from each episode, please check out financestheotherfword.com.